Marbury actually called out Jordan like 2 years back for his shoes being responsible for a lot of inner city deaths and a lot of conflict over his shoes. Do we feel any differently about Jordan's pricing on his shoes versus LaVar Ball's?
Well, there's options for Jordans that aren't bad. Like you can go buy, if it depends in the basketball sense or just like the lifestyle brand sense, because you can buy a pair of Air Jordan 1s for $80.
No, he's talking more lifestyle sense.
Yeah, more lifestyle sense. Like how much responsibility do we?
What's the J. Cole line?
Which one?
Brothers killing people for J's. That's death over designer.
Yeah. Get death over designer. Yeah.
Okay, so I actually think it's an unbelievably accurate question. So what I would say to that is very similar to LaVar Ball. That's Jacorey in there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We need to get you a camera, by the way. This is utter bullshit.
No, this is part of his the whole bit around it. He's just this voice of reason, like this godly figure.
Right.
We look this direction.
We never put him on. You hear his aura.
He's here. It's just like he's everywhere.
Okay, so to answer your question, how I view Stephon Marbury is actually quite similar to how I view LaVar Ball, just contrasting styles in terms of the price. So they're both, in my opinion, like glitches in the system. So like we're run by, okay, a price has to be within our own price range and it has to be available on this day because that's how I want it and that's how I've been trained by my mind with many of the big corporations in America. However, with LaVar, he's overcharging. With Stephon Marbury, they're undercharging. And in a way, they're both being ridiculed, which I don't understand. Now, to your Jordan point, and we've seen this previously, he wasn't involved in like politics. And he wasn't involved in, I don't want to say the inner city youth, but it's not that he didn't care, it's that he knew where his bread was buttered by going to Gatorade, by launching Jordan brand. I'm not saying it wasn't a priority for him. Maybe there was some stuff that went on behind the scenes, but Stephon Marbury, he even said it as a quote. He was like forced out in a way in the NBA with his clash with Mike D'Antoni, but also with how outspoken he was, whereas Jordan wasn't outspoken at all. He was not only an unbelievable player, but he also played to every NBA owner and every NBA fan by going across the same plane, but also just having his skills speak for himself.
Right, that's what's gonna lead to Lonzo Ball's, the Big Baller Brand shoe success. Like they launched the Jordan 1 in 1985, and 6, 7, 8 were championship winning shoes. And did they skip a year? What happened with the 2 years that he retired? They still released,
when he went to baseball?
Yeah. Did they skip, or is it the Jordan 10, 11, 12, or was it the Jordan 12, 13, 14 that he won again in? Because they're at Jordan, what, 32s? The Westbrook 32s just came out recently. I don't think Michael Jordan knew in 1985 that he was going to become a shoe mogul and change the shoe game forever.
I don't think so.
Because we talked with Dr. J for a minute at the Big 3 League, and like what Jordan did was it was the tipping point. Like around the Jordan 6 or 7, when the championship started coming in, that was the tipping point for just sponsored shoe wear. Now, every top 10 pick has a massive enough, like I think $1 million, a massive amount of money to me it is, so massive shoe contract. But Dr. J was the Converse sponsored guy, and that was the first, or one of the first. I think the ad was, you need a remedy, you gotta call a doctor. The remedy for sore feet, you gotta call a doctor. And which is hilarious because if you ever try to play any sport in Chucks,
you literally you will snap your ankles to the doctor. Yeah,
you will snap them. So it's just interesting because, to your point, Rick, about Jordan, it's not that, it's funny because some people will make it synonymous. Oh, he didn't necessarily go into the communities as much, therefore he doesn't care. That's not true. We don't know what his level of involvement. Other people have stepped up in that absence. I mean, you would like, what, Michael Jordan's from where originally?
New York, right?
New York and also like North Carolina or Carolinas or.
Carolina is when he went to college.
He went to UNC.
Yeah, he went to college. I think he's from New York. Though.
From New York. It's not the same as like Jordan's relationship to Chicago is championship winning years, but like Chance is from Chicago, as I wear his hat. Like giving back to the communities is something. Brooklyn. So giving back to the communities is something that some want to do, and just because some don't doesn't make them not care.
Completely.
Yeah. I just think it's. I mean, how could Jordan?
How
could Jordan control people killing people over his shoes?
No.
Not releasing signature shoes.
The default would be the price.
But the default.
That's
the default
it. But I don't agree with
it.
Well, I think it's a decision that
regardless
it's the limited release.
Regardless of
there's only 20 of these. So only 20 of you people are waiting in line and get them.
Well, regardless, the way that we market these superstars is that these shoes are way overpriced regardless. So if someone who's coming out to try and make his own corporation like LeVar Ball, he's not doing it he's not Nike and he's not Adidas, who have been just making huge amount of money out of athletes and huge amount of money out of college sports as well. So like if someone comes out to try and redefine the way that they look at major corporations and wants to make money for himself by doing it based on the brand that many people have scrutinized, that's not one part of his character that I'm going to look at and scrutinize. I think that whatever you want to do, you want to do it.
Right.
With Jordan, like to Jacorey's point, it's because of how iconic that man was, that those shoes, people would literally die for those shoes, and having his characteristics appeal to every American, as you mentioned, but definitely associate more so with Black Americans looking at this athlete who's just redefined everything.
Nope.
I don't know if you can control the way people are going to act to get those shoes. Like even if you make those shoes $40, I still feel that people are going to try what they can to get hold of them, because of what Jason said, the limited release, how much this man has just redefined everything you imagine about sports. People are going to try to get those shoes regardless. I don't know.
I hear you. I somewhat disagree. I think dropping the price point immediately changed the dynamic of supply and demand. I think any like economic situation of Jordans, it immediately, like, they're the only reason that demand is so high is because of the unattainable price. I mean, the limited release, I think that's somewhat intrinsically tied with the price. They're expensive because they're a limited release, so more people want them, so you can jack up the price, so supply and demand.
But like you also, to Jacorey's point, like you can't control how people are going to act just because you want to sell something.
Right, so that's my question too.
Isn't that the business model? It's like
how do you view differently LeVar Ball starting a brand with that in mind versus Jordan being called out by like another superstar, like, hey, we see evidence that this is tied to your brand, and we could probably benefit from you dropping the price. Like it's not like kind of.
You're saying LeVar?
No, I'm talking about Jordan. Like 2 years back, Marbury called out Jordan and was hey, it's pretty obvious that this is a trend. Let's try to do something about this. Like I feel like there's a little bit different responsibility there between him and LeVar Ball for like being a youngin in the game and starting a new corporation with no history versus someone who has a history of people getting shoes.
All of the history.
Well, but not history of people violently being killed over the products.
No, not that history. I'm just saying.
In world football, what happens with specific shoes is they bring out replica versions of shoes, right, that are more affordable. But even still with that, you try to get the replica version and you're scrutinized for being the replica version, and it's like, oh, you can't afford the real shoes.
I saw them all over when I was in Europe.
So it's like you can go and get a pair of Cristiano Ronaldo shoes that are £50 or £60. They aren't the £130 ones that he wears, that are like they have all the nooks and crannies of the specific shoes. But I guess, does that address the way to make him somewhat affordable so that you can try to idolize someone that you know, but then you're still going to be scrutinized? Someone will, what? They're not the real ones. You can't even afford the real shoes. So it's like, would that address some of the issues if they brought out a more affordable version, which wasn't the high-end version that they could maybe still market? Because
ideally, dropping the price starts a conversation about the status symbol behind Jordans. People are getting killed over them, not because of the price, like that's the causation, but the reason behind it is it's because it's a status symbol and trying to attain that status symbol. I think dropping the price of that status symbol shows that this status symbol and any other status symbol, it can fluctuate, and it's not worth killing over. It's something that today is worth 180, tomorrow's worth 15. I think that statement alone could kind of shift the dynamic of a lot of inner cities focusing on tangible goods.
Right. I mean, look, I'm from just outside of Chicago. I like to say Chicago because no one knows where the fuck my town is.
Oh shit.
So, like, what's that?
That's why I say New York.
Yeah, exactly.
I say Boston.
But like, I'm not from the rough part, but we watch the news. We see it every day. The Chicago violence is not going to change until we have gun control in the country. So I agree with you with like someone's gonna have Jordans and they're hooping in them, and then that person's gonna get stuck up at a park in Chicago. Like, it's because of the violence that's going on in Chicago. His symbolism, I think we have to differentiate the two, because of what Michael Jordan has built has obviously been an empire, but violence is still going to be violence until we take out, and again, it's intertwined, but until we take out the guns in America all throughout many rough neighborhoods in Chicago. And then maybe you'll see less people die over Jordans, and maybe there will just be a fight or two. It's just my opinion.
In the meantime, with that one being about 50 to 100 years down the road.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
completely.
Meantime,
But I'm just saying, like violence isn't caused by Jordan.
Yeah, but not at all. Not at all. It just becomes a symbol of, and I feel like if you have a hand in that, I mean, maybe you could do something a bit differently. But going a bit long.
I agree with you, Jacorey.
Kanye West lyric, Everything I Am, just last year.
What about?
Chicago had over 600 caskets, killing some whack shit.